What if I told you that you could build a profitable app, not in months or even weeks, but in a single weekend? Well, today, we're cracking open the exact playbook from a developer who did just that. He went from an idea to a money-making app in only 72 hours. So, where does this whole story kick off? It starts with an app that was already a success, bringing in a cool $2,000 a month in pure profit. That sounds like the absolute dream, right? Well, not so fast. Here's the kicker. The creator had to shut it down. And it wasn't because it was failing, it was because it was working too well. See, he'd set it up as a side hustle, and without the right business structure, he was looking at a massive tax bill that would have wiped out nearly half his profits. As he put it himself, just watching money I couldn't scale was really frustrating. So that frustration, it sparked this really bold challenge. Build a brand new app in a completely different niche and take it all the way from idea to launch in just 3 days. All right, let's get into the playbook. Day 1. The goal here is pretty simple, but it's absolutely crucial. First, find an idea that's already proven to work. And second, master the one thing that can literally make or break any app success. So the process didn't start with some random brainstorming session. No, it started with research. He watched what successful founders were already doing, found this dead simple app called PrayScreen, and then saw its competitor was pulling in $20K a month. That was the light bulb moment. He'd just create his own version of a previous success, but for this new, proven niche. But look, a cool idea is totally worthless if nobody's actually looking for it. And this brings us to the step that most developers, honestly, they just skip it. Data-driven validation. The whole point is to prove people want your app before you write a single line of code. So using a tool called Astro, the goal was to find keywords that hit this perfect sweet spot. You want a difficulty score low enough that you can actually rank against competitors, but a popularity score high enough that you're going to get real traffic. It's all about finding an open lane on the highway, not just a cool car. Now, what's really fascinating is where the focus goes next. And if you remember one thing from this entire breakdown, please make it this. A staggering 80% of an app's revenue comes directly from the onboarding flow. That's huge. See, a high-converting onboarding isn't about just listing features. It's a 4-step emotional journey. You first pinpoint the user's problem, you make them feel truly understood, then you show them the path to a solution, and finally, you deliver a wow moment of real value before you ever ask for a dime. And this just lays it out perfectly. The wrong way? You just show off your features and then, bam, you slap a paywall on the screen. The right way, though, is to get the user emotionally invested in the outcome that your app provides. One gets you ignored, and the other gets you paid. It's that simple. Okay, on to day 2. With the onboarding strategy all locked in, the focus shifts to building the absolute minimum number of features and leveraging some really powerful, kind of under-the-radar growth hacks. The development strategy was brutally simple. Just build 4 core features and make the main one, the prayer reminders, absolutely perfect. The goal wasn't to build some kind of Swiss Army knife. It was to build one perfect, indispensable tool. Now, to build this thing so fast, he used a very specific toolkit. RevenueCat to handle payments, Price Localized to adjust for global markets, Posthog to actually see what users were doing, and an AI API to translate the entire app in minutes. This isn't about coding everything from scratch. It's about using the right leverage to move fast. And now for a massive growth hack. It's kind of hidden in the simple question you see here. To unlock global revenue, you have to realize that a single price point just doesn't work everywhere. The answer is a big, fat no. What feels like a fair price in the US might be way too expensive in Brazil or India. By localizing your prices based on each country's purchasing power, you can suddenly start getting trials and sales from markets you would have otherwise completely missed out on. And this just highlights a key principle. Without analytics, you are flying blind. Seriously, you might feel like your paywall is the problem, but the data could be screaming that 60% of your users are dropping off on screen 3 of the onboarding. Analytics turns guessing into knowing. We've made it to day 3, launch day, but submitting the app is just the beginning. Now comes the real test, validating the entire funnel, and here's the best part, doing it for free. So when you launch a new app, the App Store algorithm gives you this little push, right? A free 3-day boost to see how it does. But this boost is super fragile and it only works if you've nailed 3 key things beforehand. Think about it. If your keywords, your icon, and your screenshots aren't converting those first impressions into actual downloads, the algorithm gets confused. It doesn't know who to show your app to next, and that free boost, it just fizzles out into nothing.
So you validate with this super simple 3-step funnel. First, downloads. If that's not working, fix your store page. Then you look at trials. If that's broken, you know your onboarding needs work. And finally, conversions. If that's where the leak is, you fix your paywall. You just fix each leak in order before you even think about spending a single dollar on ads.
Look, this 72-hour sprint wasn't just about building one app. It actually reveals a much bigger, much more resilient strategy for building a sustainable business in the whole app world. And this brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. It's about taking a step back and really thinking about risk. What's the smarter business to build for the long term? Is it smarter to have one big app making $10K a month or a whole portfolio of 5 smaller apps each making $2K a month? The developer here argues for the portfolio. Why? Because it diversifies your risk. If a new competitor pops up or an algorithm changes or, an ad account gets banned, you don't lose your entire business overnight. In the end, this whole 72-hour challenge leaves us with more than just a playbook. It's a really powerful reminder that the tools, the strategies, the frameworks, they're all out there. The only question left is, what will you go and build?